You're listening to the Codependent Millennial Podcast, Episode 8, How to Heal Loneliness and Create Connection During Quarantine. This episode is part of my series on living your best codependency-free life in quarantine. To sign up to receive this entire series of video trainings and to receive all of the corresponding worksheets and written guidance, simply visit codependentmillennial.com/codependency-free quarantine. Press the button that says Get the Guide and sign up there. Now let's get started. Hi, I'm Sophie from Codependent Millennial. Welcome back to How to Live Your Best Codependency-Free Life in Quarantine. Today we're talking all about loneliness and connection. So I want to say one thing up top, that feeling loneliness is a good thing. I love talking about how our emotions are our greatest teachers, and if you're feeling loneliness right now, that's a good thing. It is existing for you right now as an experience to serve as a guidepost to help you learn how to live your happiest, most fulfilling life. Your loneliness right now, if you get in touch with it and listen to what it has to say, listen to what it's asking for, it will tell you exactly what you need in order to, like I said, live a happier, more fulfilling life. So just give a little gratitude to it. If you've been feeling resentful of it because it doesn't feel so good, just know that it is a good thing and it's here to serve you. Some people think that connection comes from other people, but if you've ever been in a crowded room feeling lonely, you know that you could be in a room full of the people who love you most in the world, but if you don't feel that connection, if you don't feel that love inside, then it won't matter. It doesn't matter how other people feel about you inside if you don't feel that same way inside. And this kind of works in the reverse as well. If you're in a room full of people who despise you, but you feel really good about yourself, it doesn't matter what they think of you. If you feel secure in yourself, if you feel good about your thoughts about yourself, if you like yourself, you will be unaffected by other people's opinions of you because you're not looking to other people for instructions on how to feel about you. I want to tell you that there's not a single thing that exists outside in this world that you think you need that you can't get from inside yourself. Truly nothing. And what's more, you can't get anything from outside that you don't already have inside. You can't receive anything from anyone else that you haven't already given yourself. It's so ironic and so frustrating sometimes, but you can't cut and paste approval or love or permission or connection from anyone else outside of you if you haven't cultivated that within you first. It won't stick. You will reject any love, celebration, gratitude, appreciation, connection from other people that they try to shine onto you if you haven't appreciated yourself, loved yourself, connected with yourself, complimented yourself. It just doesn't work. When you're trying to fill yourself up with love and connection from others, but you haven't actually figured out love and connection within yourself from yourself, it will be like you're trying to fill a bucket with water, but the bucket has a hole at the bottom of it. That is the opposite of connection and fulfillment. It makes you feel even more separated because you try and heap on more and more of that outside attention, and it just feels worse and worse because you still haven't given it to yourself. It just feels empty. That bucket, the bucket of you, the bucket of your container for love and approval and gratitude and appreciation and connection will never get full if it's incapable of holding water, if it's incapable of feeling those things first. So what you have to do is learn how to give yourself everything you're looking for from the outside world and from other people, and then it'll feel wonderful when, a droplet of appreciation from someone falls into the bucket, or a droplet of love, or a droplet of connection, or a tsunami of love. Like, it'll feel great and it'll fill you up. But if there's that hole in that bucket, if there's that missing piece of you not loving and accepting and approving of and appreciating yourself, nothing else will ever be able to do that job for you. So if you're experiencing loneliness, understand why, understand the cause. You have to understand the source of your loneliness, the cause of it. You have to be deeply familiar with that in order to understand the remedy. And the good news is, whatever the remedy is, it's always within you. The remedy is never more attention from other people. The remedy is never nice words from other people. The remedy is never money from other people, gifts, acts of service, any of those love language stuff. That is never the remedy to your feeling of lack of connection and loneliness. For example, for years, and I still do it sometimes, I still find myself falling into this trap because it's hard. It's something we've practiced for a long time. But for years, I thought that in order to feel good about myself, I needed compliments from others. And that just wasn't true. I realized no matter how many amazing words I heard from other people, no matter how much praise I received, I felt worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. And it was because the thoughts I was thinking about myself were degrading and derogatory. So no, spackling on from the outside of compliments could make up for the fact that the foundation of the house was rotten. I had to change my thoughts about myself. I had to change the sentences I was practicing about myself. I had to change the way I was speaking to myself, the way I thought about myself, the way I treated myself. That was the key. And then at that point, once I shifted that, compliments from the outside feel fine. They feel great. I mean, they're whatever. But I mean, it's kind of like take it or leave it. Like, I'm good. I'm solid. I have everything I need within. And if you'd like to offer a compliment, you're more than welcome to. I will accept it graciously. But I don't think that I need that anymore. I'm not fooling myself believing that I need that from outside anymore, because I know that I have the source of it within me, and I have figured out how to give that to myself. Another example of this is when I was feeling really, really lonely. And I realized this so this was at a time in my life when I was listening to podcasts and audiobooks, literally 24/7, nonstop, 24/7. And at one point, I think my speaker died, like the battery died, and the sound cut off, and I was in silence for 1 or 2 seconds. And it hit me, and I said out loud, "Oh my God, I'm so lonely." And that was such a gift. I just got chills thinking about that moment, going back to that moment. It was such a gift because I realized that I was technically spending time with myself, technically, because I was alone with myself, but I wasn't paying attention to myself. I was abandoning myself. I was constantly drowning myself in all this input, these voices, but I wasn't actually connecting with myself. So what I had to do then was ask myself what I needed. I was like, what kind of attention do you need? What kind of love do you need right now? I've been neglecting you. How can I not? How can I change that around? And I came up with some answers. If you open up the door to this dialogue with yourself by just asking, the answers will come. And they always feel good. And you're always grateful that you asked in the first place and then obeyed whatever the answer was. It's an incredible way of connecting with yourself, is to ask yourself how you need to feel loved and connected in that moment. Like I said before, the answer is never something from outside of you. It's always within. Here's yet another example. Once I was experiencing a lot of loneliness because I felt forgotten about. Not a pretty feeling. It was horrific. It felt so empty and dark and sad. But I myself hadn't reached out to anyone. And I had this illusion that I could only feel the kind of connection I was wanting to feel if other people reached out to me first. But I want to let you know, if you're in this position right now, don't hold yourself apart from the connection that you could feel with other people because you think they need to reach out to you first in order for you to feel that way. It's not true. The connection you feel when talking to others and being intimate with other people is still the same depth and strength when you reach out to them than if they had reached out to you. So please don't separate yourself from that connection that's possible by believing this nonsense illusion that they have to reach out to you first in order for it to count, okay? Don't do that. And speaking of other people, developing this deeper, stronger connection with yourself impacts every other relationship in your life in the most amazing way. When you love and accept yourself, you only spend time with people who enhance your energy, who bring something else to the table, who make you feel even better than you know how to make yourself feel. Now, this is true unless you're wrapped up in people-pleasing, which is the opposite of connection. People-pleasing is lying. People-pleasing blocks connection. You abandoning and neglecting yourself in order to attempt to gain other people's approval or acceptance is the opposite of true connection. You may have been conditioned to believe that people-pleasing led to connection, but what it really did was it just led to an acceptance of a facade that you learned how to put on. That is not connection. So get really honest with yourself if you are engaging in people-pleasing in order to create a false sense of connection, and understand that that is further eroding your own relationship with yourself and with the people you're trying to connect with by people-pleasing. It's pretty backwards. I experienced it for a long time, so I can tell you that's not the way to connection. I also want to add that we can sometimes feel so angry and resentful towards other people and the world in general when we aren't meeting our own needs in our relationships with ourselves. I also want to add here that we can so often feel angry and resentful towards other people when we aren't meeting our own needs in our relationship with ourselves. When we take full responsibility for providing ourselves with all the love, appreciation, compliments, gratitude, permission, approval, acceptance, all of it, and we don't put that on anyone else's shoulders, then there's no resentment within us to aim outwards at other people for not doing our job for us. There's no resentment inside of us for someone else not meeting the needs that we know how to meet ourselves. And that opens up the door to such deeper connection with others. Again, pretty ironic. So some tips that I have for connecting with yourself right now in quarantine or wherever you are. I recommend journaling, of course. I'm the journaling queen. There's at least one journal around me at all times, literally at all times. I keep journals in my purse. I have a journal next to my bed. I have a journal on my desk. Journaling helps me connect with myself, and I recommend it as a new tool for you to try if you used to journal and haven't in a while, or if you've never tried journaling. Write down your thoughts. Get intimate with yourself in that way. It is a game changer. I also recommend taking baths. I recommend going for walks. I recommend dancing to your favorite music. I recommend playing the music you loved when you were a kid and dancing to that. Don't underestimate the power of dancing with yourself. This is huge. I promise you, I have had transcendent experiences, just like being silly and dancing around my apartment with myself. If you've never tried it, now's the time. Just like clear the couches away, move the table, and just turn off all the lights and dance around. I highly recommend it. You will feel instant connection with yourself. And I know it will be uncomfortable, but stick with it. You know, that's another thing I want to touch on. A lot of these practices will feel deeply uncomfortable when you first try them because you're not used to this. You're not used to being intimate with yourself in this way. You're not used to cultivating a deep connection with yourself. But those days are over. You're watching this video. You're going to do it. You are at the point in your life where you have decided that you are ready to develop a deep, intimate, amazing, loving, supportive connection with yourself. And that is worth pushing through the discomfort of journaling for the first 5 or 10 times, or the discomfort and embarrassment of dancing by yourself, or the discomfort of playing a song that you listened to when you were a kid and it makes you kind of sad, but you also love it. Pushing through that discomfort to pushing through the discomfort of sitting in silence with yourself, of taking a shower with no music playing, no podcast playing, just taking a shower and just feeling the water and just being with yourself there in the shower. Your connection with yourself is so worth the discomfort of any of those practices the first few times. Just know that this is worth it, and that pushing through any of that discomfort will be one of the most valuable things you ever do for yourself, I promise. I also recommend cooking for yourself. Check in with yourself every single day. Hey, self, what would you like to eat today? What would you like for dinner? What would you like to drink right now? What sounds fun to you to do? Like, just ask yourself these questions. Open up for that dialogue. Open up that relationship. I also recommend self-massage. This is incredible. So in the morning I do yoga, and sometimes when I'm done doing yoga, I'll just do a quick little self-massage. I'll you can see I have goosebumps, I'm chilly. I'll just sort of roll my muscles. I'll massage my feet sometimes. Your shoulders, you can do some self-massage on your shoulders and your neck. Just give yourself some love that, you think you want from other people, but you can give it to yourself too. And my last suggestion, there are hundreds more, but my last suggestion here for this video is to ask yourself questions. There are tons of fun questionnaires online that you can find, like self-questionnaires. And there are fun, get to know you kind of questions for other people that you can just reflect back to yourself. You may never have spent intentional time with yourself before, getting to know you. So what better time than now to just take an hour, just 1 hour, I'm not saying an hour every day, but just like an hour this week, to ask yourself some questions, get to know you. So I asked my Instagram followers if they had any questions about connection and loneliness and codependency that they wanted me to address in this video. And I got 2 amazing questions to share with you today. One of them is, how do you move beyond the feeling of loneliness that comes when you doubt that people actually like you and want to spend time with you? Such a powerful question. What I want to say to this is that you can never truly control other people's perception of you at all, no matter what. You just can't. If you're living with this fear and doubt that other people don't actually like you, it's very likely that you aren't giving yourself the love and acceptance that you're trying to get from these other people. If you were fully accepting of yourself and fully loving of yourself, which is difficult work, I recognize that, but it's important work and it is relevant here. If you were fully loving and accepting of yourself and you refused to think thoughts like, they don't actually love me, they don't actually like me, they don't want to spend time with me, then this wouldn't be an issue. So I want you to look at these thoughts for what they are. These thoughts that say, they don't really want to spend time with me, they don't really like me, they don't really want to hang out with me, those are thoughts based on a fear that says that you're not good enough. And that fear isn't true, that fear isn't valid, that fear isn't something that is indicative of a deeper truth that you need to look into. That fear is just something you've been practicing for a long time and have gathered evidence to support. This is a pattern of thought that you've been thinking for quite some time. So you'll probably need to invest some effort and some time into unlearning it and letting go of it. But it is so worth it. Think, if for the next 6 weeks, or even just for the next 6 days even, every time that thought came up, they don't really like me, they don't really care about me, they don't really want to hang out with me, if every time that thought came up, you refused to think it, you just recognized it for what it was, a thought that was incorrect, a thought error based on a fear and an anxiety that you aren't enough, not the truth. If you recognized it for that and just no longer allowed it, if you didn't succumb to it, if you didn't entertain it, where would your self-perception be in 6 days or 6 weeks if that thought was simply not allowed? If every time it came up, you recognized it for what it was and you let it go, you released it. Your self-image in 6 days after doing that practice, yes, you'll be exhausted because that thought is going to come up a lot and you're going to have to remind it that it's no longer needed every single time it comes up, but your self-image will be so much higher, so much better, so much more beautiful than it is now, because you are stepping up for yourself and taking charge of the thoughts you think about yourself. You're not just going to think any old thought that walks in the door. That thought is harmful and is no longer welcome. That thought, you recognize it now, not as truth, but as a lie that your fears have been telling you. So really dedicate that energy towards your positive relationship with yourself, and just don't allow that to be part of your narrative anymore about your life. You know, another thing I want to say about this is that if you were conditioned to believe that your security came from your ability to people please, it's likely that you also were conditioned to believe that when other people please you, that means that they love you. So you might be interpreting when someone says they don't want to hang out, or when someone says they can't talk on the phone right now, you might be interpreting that to mean that they don't love you. But what it really means is that they're not a people pleaser, is that they're just showing up as them. What it really means is they just don't have time right now. It doesn't have anything to do with you. It doesn't have anything to do with how much they love you or care about you or want to spend time with you another time. It is simply that they are a person who might be doing something else right now. But your brain that has been conditioned to believe that people-pleasing equals love sees that unavailability and interprets it as they don't really like me, they don't really care about me, they don't want to spend time with me. That, again, is a thought error that you get to reframe. Remember, the thought you have right now that says that people don't like you and don't want to spend time with you is just a thought, and you can change it if you want. Thanks so much for listening. Tomorrow we'll be back with regularly scheduled programming. I'll be walking you through my 7-day guide to moving beyond codependency. Until then, if you'd like to talk one-on-one about your struggles with loneliness, making friends, and building amazing relationships, you can grab one of the 3 free sessions that I have available each week by visiting codependentmillennial.com/work with me and schedule a free session there. If you liked what you heard on this episode, join me over on Instagram at Codependent Millennial for tips on moving beyond codependency and building a life you truly love. See you there.